I knew that was coming, man.
You,
As soon
you
as you
got
said fun to watch, I was like, oh, it gotta be the D Miles and Quentin Richardson, man.
And we are rolling another show, another Cash's Top 5. Today, joining me, my longtime friend, Bryce Stone, a member of the Purple Championship team from 6th grade YMCA.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We were the two big men with the long range, and it's good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, man. Good to see you too, man. Them purple days was sweet.
They
6th grade Warren Township, man.
Not a worry in the world.
You know, it's awesome.
Well, I knew I wanted to do a hoops episode of a top 5 eventually. And, I figured who else should I have on to do a basketball episode? Then my good buddy, Bryce. Bryce, what are we doing today? What's our top 5?
Okay, man. So we're doing our top 5 most favorite teams of all time. Okay. So it's a wide variety of teams in NBA history.
Not necessarily the greatest.
5, not the best. Yes.
But our favorites. Yes. Perfect.
Absolutely.
All right, well, start it off. What do you got at number 5?
All right, my number 5 is the 05 Phoenix Suns with Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, the Brazilian blur, Leandro Barbosa, who was my second favorite player on that team. But high pace, man. I love shooting, and I think they led the league. And I know they did in scoring, but especially in threes, you got the pick and roll with Amari and Nash. That was Nash's second MVP season, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that year, if it wasn't for punk ass Robert Horry elbowing Steve Nash,
they would have won the championship.
They probably would have won the championship.
Absolutely.
So, that team, that was always my 2K team. Whenever I would play with them. And I don't think this was before Shaq got there, but still, man, the run and go. They had Joe Johnson on that team too. Boris Diaw.
Was Jay Rich on that team at that point, or did he come a little later? Jason Richardson.
He came after. So now he came, I want to say the year. So he was there when Kobe and Gasol were playing.
So like
they
08,
they faced the Lakers. So it was like 08, 09.
Okay.
Was when because they had Grant Hill and they had Raja Bell on that.
That was a fun Suns team too.
Yeah, that was, and they were close, man. Grant Hill box out away from Ron Artest not tipping in that shot, and they might have had a chance to get to the championship as well. And I think that's the year the Lakers won. That's the year they beat Boston. But fun team, man. That was my Steve Nash. Is my all-time favorite point guard. Mm-hmm. So shooter, ice cold veins, and could really do that pocket pass, man.
I got to tell you, underrated theme song too. Their intros.
Yeah.
The Bulls, I think, is kind of the classic timeless number
that's
one.
The standard, man.
But they had, I forget what the name of the song is, but and they're all passing the ball and the flames come out. That's a badass intro.
Sweet, man. Sweet. Yeah. That's my team though, man. That was my team with my point guard that I wish they would have won one. I think that's the only team on my list that wasn't a champion. So
ooh, okay. A little foreshadowing. Okay.
Yeah, man.
I don't think I've got maybe a 1 or 2 champs. So, okay. All right. Strong start. I'm curious to see what the rest of your 5 are, because you have a lot of love for that one, and they're 5th. So we'll see what
exactly
you've got. So my number 5 for you, also a team that I feel like might have been robbed of a championship, are the 2002 Sacramento Kings.
Ooh.
I think
with Weber
I wasn't a huge Weber guy. I just felt like he was kind of a whiner. I respected his game, but the whole team, Vlade, the big man with the passing, mm-hmm. You had Peja, could hit it from anywhere. Doug Christie pointing up to his wife. I mean, you just had so many characters. Bobby Jackson could come off the bench and give you 50 out of nowhere. I mean, underrated team. And again, Tim Donaghy, the referee that got caught fixing games and betting scandal, all that. You can say big shot Robert Horry put the Lakers, and took them over the top, but I don't know that it should have been that close. I think you can look at that Trailblazers series that one year, and then that Kings season, the game the next season, the team I'm talking about, in 02. That was a solid team. I feel like they were one of the best teams to not win a chip, and I loved watching them play. So they're my number 5.
Yeah, man. I know that and a lot of times now, like on 2K, they have a lot of classic teams on there. But like when they first did it, that Kings team was on there, and they weren't even a champion, like you said. That team, to me, they were pretty close to making my list too. I'm not even gonna lie, because you had a rookie. Who was that? You had Turkoglu on that team.
Yeah,
you had
Hito.
Gerald Wallace. Both of them was rookies. Like you said, Chris Webber. He was kind of a crybaby, and he still is on the announcements now. Probably until I heard Bill Walton today, Chris Webber was the worst announcer I've ever heard in my life. Until Bill Walton just solidified that, and Quinn Buckner too. But
we got to show Quinn some love, Pacers love, man.
Quinn is the psychic of announcers, man. He will tell you what the players are thinking, what they had for dinner that night, why they missed Oh my God, man. But back to that Kings team, bro, that's a good pick, man. I think that they easily could have been a champion that year. If that shot doesn't go in, I think it definitely turns the tide of history for that Kobe and Shaq team too, man.
That's true.
Good pick. Yeah. Solid.
All right, we're off to a good start. What do you have at number 4?
Well, my number 4 team is the 2016 Golden State Warriors.
Okay. All right.
The first year with KD.
I was wondering when you were going to bring out the Lamborghini, the Ferrari, the best of the best.
That's but again, it's not a front runner thing. It's just, if I have to look at what kind of basketball I like to watch fast pace. I like to watch threes. You can't go wrong with that team. I mean, you have arguably 3 of the top at least 10 best shooters ever.
Right.
You in my eyes have the 2 best shooters ever in the backcourt. As far as just shooting. Now, it's still to be proven, because Clay, I don't know how his future is going to be now.
I hope he comes back, man.
I do too, man, because he's got the best looking shot I've ever seen. And then Steph, Steph is Steph.
Right.
That it was fun to watch. I was a big Draymond Green fan. A lot of people don't like him as a superstar because he doesn't average 20 and 15, but he was the heart and soul of that team, and he would get up in you and talk shit to you too. I remember that year. I think that was I want to say that was either Pierce's last year or around that time when and Paul Pierce was kind of wanting that farewell tour that Kobe got. And I remember he only played like 1 minute against them when he was in Washington, I think. And he was just like, you ain't getting no farewell tour from us, And that's just the kind of guy he was, man. And coming off of that loss to LeBron the year before, with the 73 wins, arguably, record-wise the best team. But a lot of people kind of slandered KD for doing that move. I'm one that didn't really feel any kind of way for him leaving the situation he was in. I look at it as, if you're in a job that is cool, but you get a better opportunity somewhere else, even if it's a competitor, you're going to do what's best for your family and take that job. So to me, I think KD already is a top 10 player in history. His legacy is not going to be damaged because he went and got a ring with them.
No, and I think, especially now with players being much more mobile and endorsement, obviously there's endorsements have been around for a long time, but I feel like the players have it's become more of an entertainment spectacle than necessarily a sport spectacle. And so they gave us some incredible entertainment. You can't deny that. And I don't know if you have thought about this. I'm sure you have, but I love watching the Splash Brothers play. It bums me out that Reggie Miller played when he did, because if Reggie could have waited another 20 years and played now, think of, I mean, obviously far and away my favorite player growing up as a kid.
Right.
Imagine the numbers he would have if he had free range to just let it fly like they do.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and that it's just different eras, man. And ooh, that would be sweet to see Reggie in a system like that, man. With the facilitator getting him the ball, running him off. As much as Clay gets ran off of screens and Steph, Reggie's the best all time to come off of screens and actually moving. He'd easily have 10,000 more points probably.
I agree. Yeah.
So and you know, Reggie's my guy too, man. He's probably my favorite. I clearly my favorite pacer, but he's one of my favorite shooters too. Probably right behind Steph. So I'm with you on that, man.
Well, my fourth team for you is probably not close to being championship level, but they were a hell of a lot of fun to watch. I've got the 2001 Los Angeles Clippers.
I knew that was coming, man. As soon as you said fun to watch, I was like, oh, it gotta be the D Miles and Quentin Richardson, man.
Was there more fun other than maybe the Splash Bros? Has there been a more fun team to watch? Just throw alley oop after alley oop and chuck 40-foot long three. I mean, they had so much fun, and it was a lot of really good players on one team before they kind of, that was before Lamar Odom really took off in Los Angeles. Before he had his issues. They were such a young team. Quentin Richardson, Darius, I mean, he never really blossomed like they thought he would. But you had Elton Brand in the post back when having a strong power forward mattered in the way he played the game. But they were just so much fun. They had a lot of players like Draymond you were just talking about, where you hate them, but when they're on your team, they're your favorite player. Yes, you want them on your squad. You never want to go against them. They had a bunch of bravado, and I don't know, man. They were a lot of fun.
A bunch of Lance Stevensons on that team, man.
Imagine Lance with the headband. Yeah.
Hey, man, that's a good pick, man. And that was back when the Clippers was a laughing stock. They was kind of like the Aints in football. It was just, and they brought some excitement and fun to the game. They remind me a lot of that. Like when you said fun to watch, it's almost like that Warriors team that had Baron Davis and Matt Barnes and I think Monte Ellis was on that team.
Yeah.
And they went and they was the 8 seed and beat that 1 seed. That type of the Mavs. That type of basketball, man. It just reminds you of kind of like playing outside in the street, just out there playing to have fun.
Yeah, they could have been in their own backyard hooping it up as opposed to being on the NBA court. They were, I don't know. I honestly thought about ranking them higher, but there were, I think the fact that it was just a big deal for them to just make the playoffs, like that was a big deal. I was like, I got to rein it back in a little bit.
Yeah, rein it back in. I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Okay, so 05 Suns at number 5. You got the 16 Dubs at 4. Who do you have at 3?
I got the GOAT, man. I got the 98 Bulls.
I was wondering if this was coming.
Yeah, man. That was, and as a kid, from Indiana, and that year, of course, was the Eastern Conference Finals with them and the Pacers.
That's why I'm like, how can you pick these guys, man? We were so close.
Listen, I am a Pacer fan through and through. I love them. But my favorite player growing up was MJ. I mean, it was. And if you can imagine, let's see, so 98, a 9-year-old kid in a house whose dad, whose uncle, whose grandfather, whose cousins, everybody's all geared out in Pacer gear, and you got a Jordan jersey on, and you're the only one rooting for Michael. I think I had to walk home from that game. We was at my grandma's house. I think I had to walk home from Game 7 because the Pacers couldn't hold that lead. And I was talking cash money, man. And it's, that team though, man, if you look at it, and of course, everybody's probably watched The Last Dance. So it's kind of chronicled in that. And after I watched that kind of put them even more as an adult into perspective. Like, you got Rodman, you got Jordan, Pippen, and just the fact that Pippen was making $3 million that year. Like, the second or third best player in the league, and you're making
your
less.
Agent.
You're making less than Judd Bushler. I mean, like, come on, man. So it's just like the fact that he actually came back, and that year they had to go through all the the Phil Jackson, this is your last year. Doesn't matter if you go 82-0. They had to deal with everybody hating their owner. And then, Michael Jordan at 35, 36 years old. I mean, until LeBron this year, you've never seen nothing like that at that age. I mean, he won MVP,
True.
won All-Star Game MVP, won the Finals MVP that year. It's just, and his motivation was he was pissed off because Karl Malone won the MVP of the year. So It's just like you really can't go wrong with that team. And I know that it seems like a front runner pick, but growing up, man, that was the standard. And so they're not my number one team. They're not my favorite, but
yeah, you've got the 86 Celtics to go. You've got all these other all-time great teams. Come on, man.
I got one more on my list. The other one is gonna ruffle some feathers.
Okay. Well, strong start. I like what you've got so far. My number 3 for you, also still not a champion, but kind of along if the 01 Clippers was junior high, this is like the high school version of it, or maybe more AAU version. But I've got the 2011 Thunder. You've got KD,
the Harden,
you've got Harden still there, Russ. I mean, Serge Ibaka when he could still get up and down the court. I mean, it was. I have never rooted for a team so bad in the finals than them against the Heat. As much love and respect as I have for LeBron, I don't care. He beat my Pacers every year. We had a great squad, 13, 14. But that first year when they won their first title, I wanted they were just so much fun. I never liked the jerseys. The jerseys looked like you're watching an NBA team in a movie, like it's the Like Mike jerseys.
Yeah.
Never really loved that blue and orange, but that team was so much fun. And I think that's kind of a lot of the reasons why we've made our picks. They were just fun to watch. Lots of ball movement, lots of great, just good basketball. No bad shots, unless Westbrook every once in a while gets a little crazy. But that's what you kind of sign up for, the Energizer Bunny. He's just kind of going everywhere.
And he wasn't really that bad back then, though. He wasn't established, and it was just all athlete. He wasn't really taking the stupid shots. He was just trying to dunk on everybody.
That's true. Yeah, and he did a lot.
Yeah. That's what that meniscus left for. But but that was a good team, man. And a lot like Kobe, I wasn't ever really a Kobe fan. I wasn't a LeBron fan. I'm still not a LeBron fan. But it's just with those type of players, it's almost like you have to root against them. So it's just like they formed that super team, and they just got beat the year before. And so in a way, I was like, dang, LeBron is never going to get out of this shadow of can't win. But then I started thinking, well, you know what? I like KD. KD was taking it to him that series too. Yeah. So just like, hey, you one of the most hated people on earth because everybody wants to beat you. So I was rooting for him too. And I think they won the first game that series, didn't they? And then lost the next 4.
I think so. Yeah. They started off strong and then they kind of disappeared, but man, it's one of those things like in the heat of it, like Kobe, LeBron, especially, I mean, you just mentioned those two. While they're playing, they're fun to hate, especially when they're kind of being the heel at that time. And then towards the end of the career is when they become the good guy again. And that's when you can kind of have that appreciation for them, For me, I've come around on LeBron. I hated him for so long because he just beat the Pacers so many times. But I've never also understood the LeBron MJ debate. For me, LeBron is ultimately one of the most talented, top 5 all-time basketball players ever. But to me, it's like, what makes Coca-Cola Coca-Cola? What makes McDonald's McDonald's? It's that kind of thing you can't really describe. Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan and just can't be touched. Like LeBron's going to be the best Pepsi there ever was, but you're just not. There's just something about it I can't put my finger on. And I was wanting KD to beat him so bad in those finals. So, all right, moving along. We're nearing the top, so we're going to have some interesting picks here. I think you're going to really hate my number 2. We'll see.
Oh, Lord.
But so far you've got the 05 Suns, you've got the 16 Warriors, you've got the 98 Bulls, which stings a little, I'm not going to lie. What do you got at number 2?
I've got the 08, not the 86, but the 08 Celtics with KG.
The Boston
Ray
3
Allen.
party?
I'm telling you, man, look, that team to me, and again, it wasn't necessarily because of anything, but I love shooting. When Ray Allen got put on that team, like it was lights out. And then I kind of mimicked my game a little bit off of like Paul Pierce because he's kind of chubby, was sneaky athletic, kind of the same way I was growing up.
So and you can find a way no matter what to get the shot off. Whether it's kind of off balance or you're kind of driving or you step back, like you can get the shot off.
You can get the shot off. So, and that kind of player, you know, it resonated with me. And that team, and I was so glad that they beat the Lakers and to get it. But that team, man, I love KG shit talking, man. Pierce would shit talk you too, and then Ray would come with them daggers. A young Rondo, a young Kendrick Perkins. You know, that bench. They had PJ Brown. They had I'm trying to think. Did they have
Walter McCarty?
Yep. Good pick, man. They have
Leon Poe
on that team. Leon Poe. And what was the Tony Allen, the hard-nosed defender, man.
Tony Allen always looked like he should be smoking a cigarette while he was playing. Like he's the dude at the YMCA that doesn't look like he can do anything, but then he puts 40 on you. You're like, how the hell did that happen?
Like, how the hell did this? Yeah, exactly, man. And that's the kind of teams, man, that got me going. And again, that was my freshman year of college. And I had the Celtics gear on, man. I had the Paul Pierce jersey. And that team, I fucked with them, man. I fucked with them.
See, now the only thing that lost me about the 08 Celtics is Paul Pierce. Love KG, love Ray Allen, loved Rondo. I think that was his rookie year.
Is it?
But,
sorry, fatherly issues. Go ahead.
That's all right. But Paul Pierce, when I say Chris Webber was a crybaby, every time up and down the court, Paul Pierce crying about, every single time he shoot the ball, every time he drove, it was like he got hacked, like it was a foul. I've noticed, I didn't realize this when I was doing it, but I think most of my picks are Western Conference teams because I still harbor so much hate, so much hatred from the Pacer days. But I got to give it to you. That was a really fun team to watch too. I think the love for KG finally getting his ring, Ray Allen, same thing. Because people forget how good Ray Allen was. He wasn't just a spot up three. When he was in Milwaukee and then Seattle before the Sonics became the Thunder, that dude was one of the best, all around players in the league.
Yeah, that was Jesus. I mean, Jesus Shuttlesworth, baby. I mean,
he got game, baby.
He got game. So I mean, you can't go wrong with that, man. And it's just like, I'm glad you said that because people really do forget that he was like averaging 25 points a game in Milwaukee. Yeah. And even in Seattle, when he broke the 3-point record, he was still averaging close to 25, 26 a game. And so he had to sacrifice to get over there in Boston.
Yeah, that's true. And I think I liked him. I think I liked him and still do because my Pacers beat the Bucks. They never beat us. So
right.
I can't harbor any hate for him. Okay, man. This is where I think you're going to disagree with my pick, and I'm thoroughly ready for it because I feel like this is such a boring pick, but I have so much respect for a lot of the people involved. My number 2 for you is the 2003 San Antonio Spurs.
I knew it was Spurs, man. As soon as you said boring, I was like, it's going to be fucking Tim Duncan.
It's going to be fundamental, man. But it wasn't just Tim. Tim was approaching his prime. That the first championship in '99, he was a big part of it, obviously. But you still had Mario Elie, you had Sean Elliott, David Robinson was still kind of the king of the team. 03, he had kind of taken over. Tony Parker was this French young phenom, which the Pacers could have had, but they took Jamal Tinsley instead. Still bitter, 0-1, terrible draft. Manu Ginobili, that might have been his rookie year or his second year in the league. You had
I think he was 2 years after Parker.
So yeah, that would have been his
he was a year after Parker came over, because I don't think Parker came in 01. I think he came in 02, didn't he? Didn't he still stay in France?
Yeah, you might be right. So yeah, that would mean Manu was a rookie that year. But I think he was still like sixth man. He was still getting plenty of playing time off the bench. You had Steve Kerr was still chucking him up, getting some garbage time minutes. I mean, I have a respect for systems. I really like things that work. I like, as much as I love like KD, I love just the individual player. Reggie, I love the individual player. But systems where you kind of buy in and it's just that real team aspect of it. That's kind of the Midwesterner, play the game the right way, kind of boring stuff. But that was just such a fun team. And I didn't realize this, but when I looked it up, Robinson actually got 2 rings. He was still on the team and still playing there in 03, and not as much because that was like his last year. Yeah, David Robinson, one of my favorite players back from the Olympics. He was on the 96 team. I love that crew cut, man, and that big smile. Like when you're a kid, you're like, oh, this guy's super nice. I'm going to root for him. And they were just a fun team. I know they're boring. It's the exact opposite of what I've been talking about, where there's a lot of flash, but I guess this is kind of the balance.
Yeah, man. And I'm with you on the systems part, and I think that's kind of why the Warriors and the Suns, for me, were kind of in the same boat. And a lot like my number one team, when I get to it, move the ball, shoot the ball, get up and down the court and get going. But then you have a contrast with like the 98 Bulls. They really didn't shoot threes. They just had that superstar that they ran a triangle offense. Yeah, that superstar that kind of just took it over. So there's a different thing, but I get it. And that 03 Spurs team, man, as boring as it was, they were a good team though. They played the ball, they played the game the right way. And that was when they beat the Pistons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or was the Pistons, or was it a young Bron? Can't remember which one came first. I think it was the Pistons after they beat the Lakers. So, but I'm with you, man, because like you said, the 99 team, I'm still pissed that fucking Jerry Krause didn't let the Bulls come back for another year for a lockout season that they would have won 7.
Because who got to the finals? The Knicks?
Like, the Knicks, come on, and they were an 8 seed, I think. So I'm like, what the fuck? Like you couldn't keep them together for one. That grinds my gears, man. But the Spurs were the most boring, I think, the most boring dynasty ever. Of those things, sure. even more than the Celtics.
For sure, boring dynasty. And maybe one of the most boring champions ever, but still got love for him. All right, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm trying to figure out what your number one is. I do this kind of each episode. I'm like trying to think of like what could possibly fit. So you got the 05 Suns, you got the 2016 Warriors, you've got the 98 Bulls, you've got the 08 Celtics. You're kind of got both kind of, the decades kind of going both ways. What do you got number one?
So when you think about your favorite team, clearly it's probably going to include your favorite player. My favorite player of all time is a 7-foot German by the name of Dirk Nowitzki.
Oh,
so
man.
My number one team is the 11 Mavs that beat LeBron in the Heat, man. That team, when I tell you, I was so hyped. I don't think I've ever been more hyped in a basketball game than I want to say it was game 2. And the Heat were up like 13 or something with a minute and a half left, and they were jumping all up and down on the bench and everything. And the next frame, you look at them, they're all sitting there with the Jordan crying face because Dirk just went crazy and took them back and won the game, man. That year they swept the Lakers, which everybody thought was gonna be that year, which should have been Kobe versus LeBron.
Yep.
And I love the fact that they swept them. And like I said, Dirk Nowitzki, I mean, I model almost 90% of my basketball game as an adult off of him. The one leg fadeaway.
I would say the one leg with the knee up.
The one leg, man. That's my favorite shot. That's my go-to shot. He was kind of, to me, the first big that was a stretch forward that actually was a killer. Like, people think that he was soft because he was shooting threes. That year, he beat the Heat by going at Chris Bosh. Like, he wasn't just fading back shooting. He was going at Chris Bosh. Jason Terry talking shit to LeBron, shutting LeBron down and outscoring him in the fourth quarter by far. Little JJ Barea, Jason Kidd, that team, Brian Cardinal, the Zana Jop,
the Boilermaker
person in NBA history.
Was Tyson Chandler on that team too?
Tyson Chandler was the center, man. It was just,
yeah, man.
That was a squad, man. And to me, that was one of the biggest upsets in finals history. And I love games like that. I mean, aside from my Warriors getting beat by LeBron and probably the Pistons beating the Lakers, I think this was one of the biggest upsets. And I was all for it, man. So that's my number one squad.
Me too. They're probably an honorable mention that I was we'll talk about honorable mentions here in just a minute, but I usually, before I moved away from Indianapolis, I kind of made it a point to watch. I'd go to at least one Pacers game a season there at the Fieldhouse. And I got to see Tim Duncan's last season. I got to see Vince Carter. And I made for sure I saw Dirk's last visit to Indy. And just unbelievable, man. He's just one of my favorite players of all time too. Just when you can't stop somebody, like you got Kareem Skyhook, right? You've got Kevin Durant's just straight up pull up jumper, and then you've got Dirk's one leg fadeaway. You're talking about unbeatable, unstoppable moves. So that's a really good number one. My number one for you is, I couldn't help myself. You probably know what's coming. To recap for me, I've got the 02 Kings, I got the 01 Clips, the 11-12 Thunder, I've got the 03 Spurs, and number one for you, I've got the 1999-2000 Indiana Pacers. They didn't win the chip that year. It still breaks my heart. That was Kobe and Shaq's first championship together, but I still remember watching on TV with my dad in the living room when we beat New York in the, I think it was game 6 in New York to go to the finals. Reggie just hugging everybody, Jalen going off. It was just such a fun team. I'd seen them lose to the Knicks. They lost to the Magic, lost to the Bulls. The 90s were tough. They were shaving their heads. They were wearing the black socks. I mean, such a great team, not a lot of, no flash, no big superstars. It's tough to do in Indiana. You had Reggie, we lucked into him. Yeah. Everybody wanted Steve Alford instead. Idiots. But to get to the finals, and just such a fun squad. I have a lot of love, and I don't think he gets the props he deserves, maybe because of the brawl, but Jermaine O'Neal, those 01, 02, 03 Pacers deserve a lot of love too. Yeah. I love Jermaine. I think is very underrated, and I think he deserves more credit. He's one of my all-time favorite players, but there's just something about that championship team. Like when, after 98, the Bulls kind of dismantled, all the players just kind of went their own way. That's kind of what happened with the 2000 Pacers. Mark Jackson, he was done. Smits retires. The Davis Bros get traded. I mean, it was kind of all that was left was Uncle Reg. But still, a lot of love. That's, we were in 5th grade when that happened. So can't beat childhood nostalgia. So,
man, I remember that, dog. I remember me and my dad, I want to say it might have been game 3. I can't remember if they were down 2-0 or if they tied it up, but I remember it was the first game here, and I think it was Conseco Fieldhouse, but they had a big screen on the side of it, and it was raining that day. I remember we stood out there and watched them win their first finals game outside in the rain, outside of Conseco Fieldhouse. I'll never forget that day. So they were my honorable mention. We'll talk about that in a minute, but that team, especially after losing to the Bulls a few years back, I thought they were done. I thought that year was the year that they were going to beat. I did think they were going to beat Michael Jordan in them too. I think that was their best chance to win, aside from the Brawl team. I think that team probably would have won the championship had they not had those suspensions. So the fact that team actually made it there, like you said, they had the shaved heads, and I mean, it looked weird seeing Chris Mullin and Rick Smits with a cue ball head, but but that team, I got to give it to you. I was wondering which Pacers team you were gonna go for. I figured it was gonna be one of them, but that's a good pick, man.
Yeah, man. All right. So for you, your top 5 favorite NBA teams of all time, we've got the '05 Suns, we've got the 2016 Warriors, we've got the '98 Bulls, the '08 Celtics, and your number 1 team of all time, you've got I'm blanking. The 2011 Mavericks. Duh.
Yes, sir.
And for you, I had the '02 Kings, the '01 Clips, the '11 Thunder, the '03 Spurs, and the '99 2000 Pacers. Who do you have? Who just barely didn't make the list?
Okay, so I had that '02 Kings team that you brought up. They were actually on my honorable mention. I had them 8th. I also had the I can't remember which year it was, but it was the year that Paul George got beat by LeBron for a layup in Game 1 when they were in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Heat.
2014.
And it went 7. Yeah, that team just missed it because I thought that they had a chance, especially after Game 1, the way Paul George. That's where he kind of that superstar got born that series.
Yeah,
I thought they had a chance to beat them, and I was pretty pissed that they should have beat them that year. And so that was my 6th team, and then my 7th team, and my 6th team was the '98 Pacers that lost to MJ in the Game 7. You gotta love them, man. I mean that was hard to watch as a fan of both teams. It was good to watch, but you hate that somebody had to lose that series.
Yeah, I mean, whoever's winning that series, they're going on to win it all. A couple of honorable mentions for you. Mine are kind of player driven, which I guess a lot of this is, you kind of have a player or two that you're really rooting for. For me, huge fan of Stockton to Malone. So basically the whole '90s Jazz squads. I didn't really care what big dopey white guy and what defender shooting guard they were trying to put on MJ, but shout out Byron Russell. But Stockton to Malone was a lot of fun. The '95 Magic, even though they beat my Pacers, so much. Nick Anderson, Del Scott. You had Penny and Shaq when they could have been something if Penny could stay healthy and Shaq hadn't bounced, but they were a lot of fun. You talked about the 2011 Mavs. They were going to be one of my picks, but also the '98 Mavs, because you had Michael Finley, Steve Nash, and Dirk Nowitzki in one squad.
Yeah, man.
It was pretty good. Now, do you have any hated teams? I'm sure the list is long.
Well, of course, that Spurs team that put Steve Nash out. I actually hated the Lakers, man. I hated them with Kobe and Shaq. Even though Shaq is my all-time favorite center, I did not like Kobe, man. I didn't like Kobe. I did not like Robert Horry. I did not like Derek Fisher at all. Like, it just, I hated those teams, man. I still to this day hate Derek Fisher, man. Because he hit such big shots against teams that I loved.
I don't like Derek Fisher because he always looks like he looks like a guy who wears a turtleneck every day. Like, you want to smack him.
Oh my God, man! And I did not like that Utah team with Darren Williams and Carlos Boozer and Mehmet Okur.
Oh yeah, 05, 06, I think.
I could not, and I did like AK-47 though, but I couldn't stand how boring Carlos and how ugly Carlos Boozer's shot is, man. Like it pissed me off. And then that he had that damn black and gold beard drawn on and shit. Like, it wasn't real.
Oh yeah, he had like shoe polish on his head.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I was like, these fucking clowns, man. I couldn't get jiggy with them, man. And then of course I couldn't stand the Cleveland Cavaliers that beat the Warriors. Like I was not. LeBron flops too much, man. It's just, like you said, the list could go on. I actually did not like that Utah Jazz team against the Bulls either, because I felt like they were dirty, and Karl Malone was a crybaby too, man. Karl Malone and David West, man, they think they get fouled every time they get touched. And it
But
just, or
Karl
they
Malone
think
just
they
looks like
never
he
get
could
a
just beat
foul.
your ass at the drop of a hat, man. He was just so cutting. I always really liked Stockton. I mean, I talk about underrated point guards. Super not athletic, but he's still he's the lead, all-time leader in steals and assists. I mean,
and that record won't get broke. Nobody's gonna break that assist record.
It would be I'd be curious to see how it would be possible. You would need like a D'Antoni offense to do it.
Yeah.
The ball moving so much on every possession, but well, Bryce, thanks, man. I really appreciate you doing this. I had a lot of fun. We'll probably do another one. We'll decide if it's NBA related or not, but we'll find something fun to rank. And I appreciate it, man.
I'm down, man. Anytime. Thanks for having me on.